something going on here. Check this out.
When I first saw it, I was like, oh, maybe it's a bag of trash or something just kind of flipping through the air. But as I got closer, it kind of looked like it was holding a steady speed and kind of altitude. And I was like, well, that's kind of odd. It was like tumbling like a dice through the air.
That is a cube spinning on an axis.
I'd love to figure out what this thing was.
My kids and I were eating dinner, we're looking out the window, and we're like, whoa, look at those orange lights. And there were 3, like a pyramid. And they just stayed in the same spot. This went on for a good 50 minutes, and then they just went out. They didn't like fly away, they didn't do anything. They literally were right there in the same spot, and then they just went out.
No movement whatsoever, just stationary in the sky.
Right.
The strange lights around Catalina plagued Kathleen for years, and she made it her mission to catch video proof of their presence.
So when did this happen, this video that you took?
The video I took was in 2012 from my living room. Hold on, I'm recording this. I don't know what they are. And at one point, they pitch at the same time in the same direction, and they turn into almost like half circles. What is this?
I have that implant behind my ear here, the base of my brain. And they inserted an implant in my shoulder. I think that's basically like a tag.
Barbara discovered the implant when she began to have problems with her hearing.
We did an MRI. The doctor said, oh, what's that behind your ear? It was an elongated thing, and you can really see the implant. It's sort of like a square thingy there. And then he told me to come back 6 weeks later, and we're going to discuss it, everything. And the doctor didn't even want to touch the subject. So I personally think he looked at it and he saw it was an implant and he didn't want to touch it.
And you said you have the MRI image of the implant, correct?
Yeah. This is the latest one from last year.
So here's the nasal cavity, your sinus cavities here. And here the right side, it says it's 7 millimeters. So they had measured it. They knew that it was unique and strange enough, they thought to take a measurement. And it's sitting just...
right behind, underneath.
Just, yeah, anterior to that. What we've been discussing with people and interviewing them, something similar happened to me too. And I think you really need to hear the details of it. It was May 3rd, 2013. I went down to a local running track. I was there with my girlfriend at the time. It was 9:15, I remember. It's empty, there's nobody there. All of a sudden, I see an object coming from the west. As I'm staring at this thing, I can faintly make out that there is a line connecting each of these points. It's a triangle. It's a solid triangle. On each point of this perfect triangle, almost an equilateral, are these 3 lights that were glowing softly.
How big was it?
My best estimate is this thing was about 30 feet long. So I'm freaking out. It passed over my head. The most eerie thing ever. There was absolutely no sound. And it was cruising. It was gone in about 4 or 5 seconds. I see my girlfriend, and she's coming around the track, and she's coming up towards me. I look at her, and she looks at me. I said, you saw it too. You saw it.
I'm inclined to believe that we are being visited. I would watch us. I would keep a fucking very close eye on our capabilities.
I do think that the universe is just full of alien civilizations.
Yeah.
But I think their capabilities are far, far superior.
That would make sense. Like if I was monitoring from another world, I would say, look, these are territorial apes with nuclear weapons.
Other civilizations have failed. They're starting to get something like nuclear weapons. And then like 100 years, it all goes to shit.
We're using nukes, and that's when the wave of UFO appearances happened.
Yeah.
And the stories of them hovering over nuclear facilities and shutting down all of their facilities.
If you want to preserve a particular civilization, like a tribe, you would want to start helping them out.
That's a phronema, and it's living inside the carcass of its former victim. Phronemas are deep-sea amphipods that only get to about an inch long, but they are monsters of the dark. They hunt colonial animals called siphonophores by chewing and ripping at their insides. And once they're done, they don't just dispose of the carcass. They live inside of it, and they use their new home to travel silently through the dark, looking for potential mates, and they use it to lay eggs.
I saw at the foot of my bed 2 or 3 more reptile-looking beings. The short reptile was talking to me telepathically. It was telepathic. His exact words were, "We need to borrow your consciousness." He said, "We're going to borrow your consciousness, and you're going to be gone for 20 years. Do you want to help us?" I said, "Yes." I woke up. I was not on the earth anymore. I was taken to the moon base. There was a man, he said, you know, do you remember your mom and dad? Do you have any memories? I had complete amnesia. He said, that's because you're a clone. This is absolutely the hardest part to recount because it still hurts.
Anyone know what this is?
Alright y'all, check this out. The New York Post has come out and said the Milky Way galaxy has 4 malicious alien civilizations that could attack Earth. A PhD student in a Spain university has said that he's found exactly where the famous WOW signal has come from in our galaxy, and it's in a sun-like star 1,800 light years away from us. But the thing is, I'm not focused on where it came from. Listen to this. The researcher said that the aim of his paper was to warn other scientists and put a number of the civilizations that could possibly revert to the messages we send out. Warn other scientists. Haven't we heard this before? I'm just curious as to why this is such a common scenario. Top scientists warning the population about AI and sending radio signals out into space. There's something they're not telling us, and you all know what it is. They're giving you the puzzle pieces, you just gotta put it together.
So there are theories surrounding the idea of there being extraterrestrial life on the planet or within the planet. There was a guy named Phil Snyder who worked as a contractor for the US government, and whose dad worked as a scientist for the US government. And he exposes everything that went on in Antarctica at the time. Listen up to the video.
Berets, black berets, crack troops lost their lives because the government, our United States government, lied to not tell us anything about the alien threat. There's a war underneath there, and I'm talking dead serious. It's been going on since that time. Since late August of 1979, our military, the Russian military, basically the militaries of the world, have been in constant conflict with the outer space alien. I have a picture of one of the aliens been working for the United States Pentagon for the last 58 years. His name is Valiant 4. He's right here.
Do you guys want to know what the most feared and dangerous alien race is in the Milky Way? This one kind of freaked me out. They're known as the Gnomopo. They're from a planet called Nigamuk in the Antari system. They're noted around the world by so many people. They're called the same name and they're depicted completely the same. They're not part of the reptilian agenda because the reptilians are actually afraid of them. They aren't part of the Galactic Federation because their agenda is unknown. And they aren't genetically related to any species in our universe. So they're unique in every way possible. The Galactic Federation is actually trying to win their alliance because they have the power to wipe the reptilians off the face of all existence. They lay eggs and they're not very good warriors, but they are very skilled in mind control. If the Galactic Federation could actually win these beings' alliance, we could change the whole universe and even our planet. Let's just hope we can make an agreement with these beings.
You know, people often wonder, why is it that we haven't been visited by aliens, right? This is a thing that comes up whenever you're talking about other life inside the universe.
Get to that in a minute with
you. But the answer to that could be quite straightforward. Nobody out there cares about us because we're so ill-developed. We're so young on the cosmic scene that there's nothing interesting for them to find here on planet Earth. So to me, there's a natural explanation for why there can be other life out there, and yet they don't hang out around planet Earth, just the way we don't hang around an anthill to try to have a conversation with, what's going on inside that particular structure.
I buy that argument the least.
You do? Really?
Yeah,
okay.
Because we're interested in butterflies. Butterflies are so boring. We're interested in moles. Why would we assume that they're so far beyond us that they wouldn't be interested in these talking monkeys with thermonuclear weapons who dominate an entire planet?
Yeah.
That would be fascinating. We think it's interesting when we see a chimp use a rock to open up a nut.
The results strongly support that these beings are not closely related to any known organism on Earth.
Professor Korotkov and his team have discovered that the strange creature is female.
Skin, it looks kind of like a lizard skin, and we're going to be taking samples in the next few minutes.
These CT tomographies used a special program that allowed a more detailed examination of each layer of the bodies in a precise way that would be able to isolate certain areas for better examination.
Both Maria, big one, and very important, Josephina, little creature. If we talk about Maria, she's human-like. First of all, details of her skull. Second, of course, fingers and toes. So on the skull, we see that she has no ears. Of course, it is elongated skull, maybe not as elongated as we can see in Caracas. And then we see some parts of particle that may be related to blood. The most interesting for all of us was analysis of small bodies. And we had CT scans of 2 bodies, and now we know that those are male and female. And we had a high resolution analysis of one of them. Their anatomic construction is totally different from ours. No human beings, no animals have type of bones as they have. Construction of their ribs is again totally different from any living creatures. Because for all living creatures we have this central bone. Their ribs are rounded and they have no this internal part. Absolutely different construction of skull. And of course fingers and toes. They don't have mouths as we do. Then totally different construction of ears. They had ears, just holes. They had some holes on their skull that no living creatures have. And of course detailed analysis in tomography allowed to see that it's not construction, that it's one subject. So it's clear that it's not composed of different parts, it's one and the same subject. From the very beginning, from the first X-ray, we've seen some rounded subjects in the belly of Josephine. But when we had this detailed CT scan, Professor Galsky was able to make like a slides on the image of those eggs. And he demonstrated that those are real eggs because they have some cover, like any egg. They have some inside content. And inside, he was able to detect the fetus of some creature.
When people talk about aliens and alien like what would aliens be doing here? Why would they do? What if human beings are the product of accelerated evolution? Like what if they came down here, they found this incredibly rich planet that's filled with biodiversity and all these different life forms, and then they found these primates. And like, oh, we know where these fuckers are going. Like this is us 10 billion years ago or whatever the fuck it is. Let's accelerate this little party. Let's inject some of our super advanced DNA into these primates and let's see where it takes itself. 6,000 BC. An image from a clay tablet of a very large being that has a very small human-like being with a monkey tail on its lap. And this is what Sitchin points to as some sort of a depiction of the genetic engineering that took place to turn primitive primates into human beings.
Can you help us understand what's the significance of UFOs?
They're not coming from, well, I should say it this way. The significance of UFOs is multiple parts, but number one, it's not what you think it is. It's not coming from other planets. The evidence doesn't suggest that.
Interdimensional.
Yes. And the reason is because time is parallel. It's not linear. Or it's not like we start here and go forward in time. Time is side by side, which means everything in the past and the future is existing in this moment, but within different frequencies. So a civilization that's at the end of their technological cycle could build a submarine that changes its voltage and materializes in that same location, just into our timeline.
Oh my God. There's two. Oh, I got one. Oh!
Aliens in movies labeled as real by government officials. The Zorgans from Zathura.
In the movie, these beings called Zorgons raid the kid's house as they are attracted to heat. They are a vicious reptile species with interest in hunting heat sources and eating meat. Well, a man named Tim, who is a tactical advisor in Germany, says that the military knows these beings to be real.
The species we're talking about, I know as being called by the Greys as Zorgon.
So far, we know that they are a malevolent species of reptilian from the Draco star system who like to take over other planets. They live in the vibration of fear, so they feed off of it and enjoy anything related to it. And what's even scarier is that there's real-life military men who have reported fighting these beings on Earth, and what's wild is that there's multiple soldiers reporting this. Apparently, for now, the government is learning how to handle these intergalactic threats, but if these beings did ever try anything, other beings would obviously step in to help. I don't know about you guys, but I grew up watching this movie, and the fact that these beings are based off of real-life beings is mind-blowing.
Aliens that are millions of light years away could use a telescope and still see dinosaurs on Earth. That is totally true, and it also brings up a very interesting point. Everyone always talks about aliens visiting Earth and UFOs, but aliens, if they exist, are much more likely to be able to see us than to be able to visit us. The existence of the James Webb Telescope would seem to imply that advances in optics are much more attainable than advances in space travel. So it is totally feasible that there are aliens out there with telescopes strong enough to see the surface of the Earth, but without the ability to communicate with us or reach us because they're too far away, and so they're looking at ancient Egypt or the Ice Age or, yes, dinosaurs. Maybe that's why they don't visit. They're like, I don't know, Earth, a lot of dinosaurs there. Seems like a bad neighborhood.